Hello, namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome back. My name is Sadhana. If you are new to my channel, lovely to welcome you here. Saturdays, I am having a live chat available for just general tarot questions, not readings necessarily, but doing a recap of the week before. And this has been a very busy week. I have recorded many videos and done some surprising reflections. And so I want to tell you a little bit about what is going on in my channel. On the table, you can see two of the cards from Legend, the Arthurian Tarot. And this week I was reflecting on Nimue and the archetype of the High Priestess. And one of the questions that came to mind was what is the relationship between the magician and the High Priestess, and really got me thinking about how these two archetypes may depend on one another. And so I invite you to go back to that video and let me know how you work with the Magician and the High Priestess card and what you might think the relationship between these two cards is. Nimue and Merlin, in this case, encountered each other through many legends and parts of the Arthurian tales, and their relationship was I believe it was described in a way that wasn't necessarily apparent, and it was said that she used Merlin to discover his secrets of his magic, and they had a lot of encounters together. And I started to think about this and wondering why in the world the High Priestess would even need to use a magician to amplify her power, and started thinking about this and looking at other decks as well too. And I'm not sure that I've ever had a reading where these two cards have come up together, but our relationship with the mysteries, with the mysterious, with the unknown, with our own spiritual journeys, and how we approach that is quite different with Magician energy than High Priestess energy. And so, yeah, I feel like there's a much deeper rabbit hole to explore there. But I will be going on this week and looking at the Empress and the Emperor, and I'm hoping to cover both of those cards this week with the Arthurian decks. Hi, Clevis, welcome. So yeah, so that's sort of where my week started, and really glad to be spending time with the Arthurian decks. And I'm thoroughly enjoying the Matthews book as well too. Kathleen and John Matthews have a wonderful tome of a reference book that goes with their older deck, and just finding that working with these three guidebooks for these three Arthurian decks is a great way to dive into these stories. So yeah. And then, so last week I was talking about colorful decks, and one of the top two colorful decks was this deck from Tarot Collectibles. And I believe Dee asked me about the sparkly decks, and I don't have a sparkly deck, and they also come from Tarot Collectibles. And I looked at them, Dee, and I thought about getting one of them, but I don't have. And so when I was looking through this deck, I thought, wow, this kind of has a similar vibe to the Albano Weight, which was a deck that came out in the 1960s originally, created by Frankie Albano, who was a musician and grew up in, or yeah, was active in this age of love, peace, and flower power. So I did a side by side of the Albano Weight and the Groovy Weight. And I think that Frankie Albano would have loved this deck, and that what Tarot Collectibles has done with their very bright, colorful theme decks is really, really fun. And after spending a month going through all my versions of the Waite Smith Tarot, I was pleasantly surprised how true Tarot Collectibles stays to the authenticity of Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork in picking up colors, details in the paintings, and through their psychedelic colors also invites deeper inquiry. Not every card, I know that this was one, Seven of Swords is one that has a very different background. Some of the details are missing from the Waite Smith, but this was certainly a fun to go through this again. And I think I'm going to keep my Groovy Weight a little bit closer at hand than it has been recently. So that was kind of eye-opening. Yeah, and then yesterday or the day before, I recorded a video of Anna Turian's Tarot of the Abyss. You know, when I was looking at the backs of these cards, how many of you have the Hidden Water Tarot by Anna Turian? I used to have it, and it was a deck that had, you paint half the paper and then you make you fold the paper and you get a print on the other side. Well, Hidden Waters Tarot is like that, and it looks an awful lot like the back of this card. Oh yes, Carol Herzer does have sparkly decks as well too. I don't have any of her sparkly decks. And so I did a side-by-side of two of Anna Turian's decks, and that was a really good exercise for me. So there's a video that has Tarot of Echoes, Tarot of the Abyss, and the Centennial Tarot. Because I don't think I've ever done that in, oh my goodness, like how long have I been reading tarot? I've never really sat down and asked the question, how do all these Waite Smith inspired decks stand up to the symbolism, to the richness of the Waite Smith Tarot? And so I'm going to continue this I'm thinking I've got about 5 more videos I need to record. And I want to look at 2 of the close-up decks. So I'm thinking Morgan Greer and Ehrenberg Tarot, because they both focus on details closer up in the cards. And if you can think of other decks that go into the, really have that stay quite close to Waite Smith, that go in nice and close. And then I want to look at some other popular decks, and I'll probably do Light Seers and Unfolding Path. And I'm thinking I want to do Super Lunaris with another deck as well too. So I'm going to have several videos like that coming up. And I just purchased the Unfolding Path because many, 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 many of you have asked me about it. And it's not terribly expensive, so I got it. There was a damaged card. Hopefully Hay House will replace it. And then I'll have a look at that with Light Seers this week. Yeah, so lots of recordings planned to do. I enjoyed the spring readings yesterday, And I've been thinking about spring decks and what I want to do with spring and the energy of spring. And I have been thinking about the Greenwood Tarot. I was gifted this deck. I did pay an exorbitant amount for the postage to get here from Anna from New Zealand, but she gave me this deck some years back, and I've never used it. And I have looked at it a few times and decided that I think this is going, rather than doing a Decan walk this year, that I'm going to use the Greenwood Tarot and the Wildwood Tarot side by side and do some reflections, especially around the Sabbats. And so I thought today I could show you some of this deck and we could have a look at the two decks and some of the stuff that's going on. That would be an interesting pair. Thank you for that suggestion. Silver Spiral Tarot, welcome. Namaste. Okay. I think that's all I want to say right now. For those of you that haven't studied with me, I will be putting up a sale, a spring sale, and I will get that out on my Instagram, my community page, and other places as well too. So you can, if you're thinking about taking a tarot course, I'm going to be putting together a special package for the spring. This is the Greenwood Tarot. It is, for me, so spring-like. It is so pretty. Sorry, I was just looking for the book. This book is by Mark Ryan, and it's quite a small little book compared to the guidebook and the collection of guidebooks that go with the Wildwood Tarot. But I have glanced at a few pages today and just realized, wow, this is going to be a really, really good read. And because I know the Wildwood Tarot so well, this is also going to be a bit of a deep dive because these two decks are not aligned sabbatically at all, and nor are the minors. And so I'm kind of looking forward to doing this. If you don't know the Greenwood Tarot, I'm just looking for the copyright date. 1996. 1996, this deck came out. And it was supposed to, there was supposed to be a revision of it, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. Yeah. I just want to read you a couple things from the words of Mark Ryan. He says, "The best advice I ever got about the tarot was read the book, meditate with the cards, and then put the book away and do your own thing." Welcome to Winds of Reflection. He says, "Don't be afraid. There is no magic in the tarot, only the still, quiet voice of truth. The tarot is something that lives within us all on a very primal level and speaks to each of us in an individual way. It is not the aim of this book to go over its historic and many varied philosophical aspects. Rather, it is to give a backdrop to the wheel of the year and what basis of pre-Christian mythology and medieval Christian theology and the classicism from which the tarot developed in the earlier part of the Italian Renaissance. Before delving into the mythos of the Greenwood and the Wheel of the Year, he gives a brief explanation that led to the creation of this deck. And so I feel like there's a lot of tarot decks that I want to weave together and study. And when I was looking, let me turn some cards while I'm talking. I have said a couple of times that I want to do so Rachel Pollack's deck, I know it came out again, Shining Tribe, and not the Medicine Woman deck, the other one, that I wanted to do a side-by-side study of these cards. But then I started looking at the Greenwood, and I'm thinking, wow, this deck would also stand up, and you'll see when I get to the minors, would stand up beautifully to I can't think of the name of the deck. I'm sure it's not the Medicine Woman deck, but it's the one that I wanted to. Oh, I have it written down. Oh my goodness, where is my mind? It is, Mother Peace. Yes, Mother Peace and Shining Tribe. Those are the two that I wanted to do. And I think this deck would connect very well with that. And then I was going through the book for the Greenwood and thinking, wow, he's asking a lot of questions that I've been asking about the Arthurian deck and how this old Celtic, I think he calls it in the book pre-shamanic magic, is all woven together. So one thing that will be fairly easy is that the major arcana in the Wildwood and the major arcana in the Greenwood fall into the same pattern. And so this is a card of Beltane, and that's true for both decks. So the major arcana won't be so much of a learning curve. However, the minors are so different. Welcome back, Amelia. Nice to have you here. And at this particular Sabbat at Astara, this is where we find ourselves, at the place of both the archer and the stag. And the stag as justice. And this is a card that's deeply intrigued me. We have quite a few guardians that protect the forest and either call us in or keep us out. And I think at this particular Sabbath, reflecting on the deeper medicine of this card, I'm going to do some preparation and then talk about that maybe next Saturday, as well as share the cards for this time of year. Very, very soft colors, and it's, at first when I got this deck, I can't say that I really liked it, but now that I look at it again through different eyes, I think it's really mystical, magical. I feel very fortunate to have a copy of it. And Amelia, who's in the chat, Harvini Sen Kauni Salama, sorry, she gifted me the Mythologica Feniga Tarot, if I got that name right, and I think I will be able to also weave in something with that deck. So not quite sure my strategy. but I'm very interested in myth and magic and how all these stories from countries, places, different places in the world are all connected. So this card is also Beltane. In the Wildwood Tarot, which is this, I'll show you the handout for the other deck as well too. There are majors that are on the inner wheel, the mid wheel, and the outer wheel, reflecting the archetypes throughout the year in conjunction with the Sabbats, but also bring in really important connections that you might not necessarily have with the tarot. And I know if you've studied Golden Dawn correspondences, like so here's Beltane, and we have Forest Lovers, which is 6, and Balance, which is 14. This is certainly something that you can discuss through Tarot of Marseille or Golden Dawn correspondences, but it comes at it from a pagan perspective, which is really kind of interesting. And this is the wheel for the Greenwood Tarot. And spring equinox, we have the shaman in the center, the archer, and justice. So it's exactly the same. Green man and green woman are up here at summer. And so the majors will be fairly easy to work with. The minors, however, do something completely different in these two decks. And also the majors are not numbered in this deck. And I've noticed in the table of contents, the majors are not presented in this order. The journey through the majors is different presentations. So I will need to explore that. Isn't this a beautiful moon card? I think this is quite extraordinary. It almost looks like it's opal. The rock in the center here. You're funny, Amelia. I'm sure I didn't nail that name, but that's okay. Thank you for saying that. So maybe there is another series that I can sort of manage with a bunch of these mythological decks all woven together. This looks like it's almost like it's completely otherworldly, like this tree is coming out of the earth. This is a crazy beautiful painting. Okay, so this is where these two decks get really different. The Ace of Arrows. So the suit of arrows in the Wildwood Tarot is the season from February 1st to May 1st. Okay, and also in this deck, the minors and the seasons go from the cross-quarter days to the cross-quarter days, not the major Sabbats. So that's the same. However, in this particular deck, the minors are divided throughout the year. Like, for example, all of the aces, where are they? So look here. Where did it go? So here's 3s, 4s, 5s. So there's going to be some sort of connection. All of the aces at Imbolc at February 1st at the beginning. And then all of the 2s at spring equinox, which means all of the 6s are at the fall equinox. And that's very different in the two decks because in the Wildwood Tarot, we have the numbers ace through king, divided up in a season. So arrows goes from, in this deck, goes from Imbolc to Beltane. And the suit of fire in the Greenwood is spring, but the suit of fire in the Wildwood is summer. So isn't it kind of interesting? I mean, you can see how the Wildwood was inspired by the Greenwood, but the concept of the Wheel of the Year has been rewritten. And I'll know more about that after I read the book. These paintings are quite extraordinary. It's almost like looking through the lens of time. Speaking of that, have you seen that crazy movie on Prime that is in a living room in the South in the US? And it's a Tom Hanks movie, and it goes through... and I changed these. So here's King of Arrows. These cards are being presented in the order of the Wildwood Tarot. And in the Wildwood Tarot, it goes King, Queen, Knight, Page. And in the Greenwood Tarot, it goes Page, Knight, Queen, King. But I wanted to look at them in the same order. So you can see the different animals have been chosen for the court cards. Here's one that's the same. So anyway, this movie I'm talking about, I didn't make it through the whole thing. It's kind of weird, but it goes from pre-colonialism to contemporary time on the same piece of land. It's wild. And it skips back and forth, flips back and forth through all of these people who have lived on the same piece of land. I forget what it's called. Page of Arrows, woodpecker, Page of Arrows, wren. So one of the things in this deck is that I've come to figure out where the animals show up. And so I know the wren is on the Hermit card, so I wonder if the woodpecker is on the Hermit card. No, look, it's got the little wren here. Same keywords for the most part. I really like the paintings that have this style of art. This is the Mythologia Phoenica that Amelia gifted me. And I think this deck for sure could become a part of this conversation. It's a beautiful, Beautiful deck. And I know Saskia has been working with it. She's not here today. Yeah. And so because this deck is looking at numbers throughout the year, all of the sixes being at the autumnal equinox, I wonder if this deck does a better job of matching those energies, because I know we've had some discussions. I've done lots of videos on the Wildwood Tarot about how it doesn't match the seasons that the cards are assigned to. So if I look at all of the sixes in this deck, do they match up with the autumn? So there's the Six of Cups. And I think that will be a bit of a process to see if that fits or not. And I know that it's been hard for some people to reconcile the very specific assignment of cards to certain times of the year, but the artwork doesn't match. So I wonder if this deck does a better job. And interesting correspondence here with the Waite-Smith Tarot, because generally speaking, this, the Wildwood anyway, while you can read some of the energy of the Waite-Smith deck into the Wildwood, it often takes a lot of the interpretations to a different level. And always it comes back to the earth, comes back to reciprocity, comes back to our relationship with the animals, the creepy crawlies, the plants, the water, the environment. And I love how Mark Ryan and John Matthews are so, I believe he also is one of the co-authors of this book. Are so committed to their to ecological awareness. So this does help because some of the court cards are matching, which is really nice. Ace of Cups, waters of life. Okay, Silver Spiral Tarot. You worked with that deck, hey? I am very, very intrigued. I need to open up my channel, my viewers list. I apologize because I know your name, Silver Spiral, and it's Catherine. Okay. Thank you. I do have it written down. I just opened up my list. Thank you. Yeah, it's sometimes I don't remember. I haven't been doing a lot of live streams, so I do like the artwork of Will Worthington too, but there's something very mesmerizing about the artwork in the Greenwood Tarot. And I can see some of the Like if I look here in the Mythologia Fennica, I can see how these two decks would talk really well together. I'm thinking, planning as I view, because I've never done this. I've never put them in order and looked through the two decks together. I find this particular card really intriguing. And Clevis, who's in the chat, and Amelia, in terms of our discussion today. So today was the final class for Tarot Foundations 2, live class anyway. And we were talking about this card at length. And when you look at, let me zoom in so you can see a little more closely the art. When you compare this card to a Waite-Smith Five of Cups and its triple Mars energy, this kind of takes this meaning to a whole other level. I almost want to go back and see what Margaret Peterson said about this card. Right? Water sign, deeply feminine energy, and yet so much fire, masculine symbology in that card. Six of Cups. Surprisingly similar cards. The Sheila Nagig we see in the Green Woman card, and I'm not sure in this deck, maybe one other place as well too. Interesting that it's Sarah in the Eight of Cups. This is one of my favorite cards in the Wildwood. I can really see the water spirits, the tree spirits in this deck, the way the paintings are done. It's like you can see the energy between the lines. King of Cups is reindeer versus heron. And I think vessels and cups they align in both decks. It's the wands and the arrows that are switched, because stones is winter. Let me turn this the right way. Stones is winter. Yeah, and vessels is over here, so is cups. So two of the suits, the two receptive suits, align in both decks, but the two masculine suits are switched. And we do have heron in this deck. Maybe King of Air, King of Arrows. And salmon we have in this deck. Salmon, was that the queen? Yeah. So the Queen of Vessels was salmon. Page of Cups, Kingfisher. And I think Kingfisher is in the suit of air. So some of them match and some of them are different. I really quite like this ace. I love the write-up for this card. Look at how they are balanced here. I think this could be really good. I just need to figure out when, how to approach. So I'm going to do some more side-by-sides and have a look at all of these decks and maybe do it over a few days and pull in some of the other ones that I mentioned. Not just the Mythologia Fennica, but also Rachel Pollack's deck. And maybe this is such a powerful card. Tradition. Lots of healing cards in the suit of stones. It's like we've learned all of the lessons of the previous suits, and then all the healing happens in the suit of stones. Our relationship with people becomes much stronger. This is a beautiful frame for the home card. You can actually see it here in the stone as well, but more obvious in these carvings. And horse, we do have horse here as knight. Wow, very different bear energy. But, this is, right, the same skeletons in the double card. And we have this connection in the Greenwood as well, too. I wonder whose bones those are, though. Sorry, it's hard at the end to turn the cards over. Wolf. And so here's the wren. Page of Stones. And Page of Stone, the little wren is in the hermit picture, and that fits kind of nicely. And then we have Lynx in the Wildwood Tarot. Okay. So that's kind of fun. I think that is something I will go ahead and plan. Add that to my repertoire. Pick a day, pick a time. Okay. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that side by side. I will do some more reading in the Greenwood book and from the wise words of Mark Ryan. And he does talk about Cheska Potter, who is the illustrator. And it seems like there was quite a conversation between the two of them in the development of this deck. So it's not just her art and his words, but a union of their interest and their other knowledge. The subtitle is Pre-Celtic Shamanism of the Mythic Forest. And I know he talks about the forests of the Pacific Northwest in the United States and other forests as well, and how he has been influenced by forests all over the world, and shamanism in all over the world as well too. I think I want to say something about that. I did a shaman course over the course of 1 year, and I've said I want to do it again. And it was a wheel journey, and it was really, really intense. And every full moon we met and we stayed into the wee hours of the morning, drumming and chanting and keeping the fire, as well as yoga classes and daytime workshops and connections with the Aboriginal people in the land where I lived at that time, and the mountain chain that goes from British Columbia in Canada down through the US, down to South America into Peru, is believed to be a chain of communication. And so when the shamans are drumming and chanting in the Quechua language in South America, those heartbeats and those messages are felt by the people of the Squamish Nation in British Columbia, where I was. And we had this really deep and powerful respect and connection of the First Nations people of these lands through the centuries, and the connections of the mountains themselves, the mountains as anthropomorphic beings, and how it's just, there's an eagle just soaring outside my window here. This is bizarre. So why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because I did way back on my channel, I did a shamanic medicine wheel spread based on many of the teachings that I have received. And over the years, I've had some really snarky and mean comments on that video about how you, and I think you means you white people, you non-Aboriginal people, ruin everything and change everything. And when a person makes a comment like this, I hope that they have done their own shamanic studies in their own tradition and their own culture, and they're not just white shaming me. And yet, reading Mark Ryan, and who's also white, and there are like Alberto Villoldo, and other people who have studied shamanism in different countries and in different cultures of the world. When they come together and find these common teachings, it's so brilliant and so beautiful. And when I feel so powerfully connected to these teachings and want to share it, I feel like I'm simply passing on knowledge and experiences, and it's not about saying this is the right way or this is the wrong way. It's simply about tapping into the energy of something that is much older. And when I look at a deck like the Greenwood Tarot, I really feel like, this is what I was saying, like I feel like the air has an energy. The air has an anthropomorphic quality to it, as do the spaces between the trees and the water. So just saying that when I share things like this, it's coming from a place of powerful connection and reverence. It's not about owning the teachings, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's extraordinary how I can be talking about something and then it appears, like a deer will walk across in front of the window that I'm facing and something like that. I just love that. Hi, Tammy Ann. Welcome. So, shall we pull a card for today? I think that would be a nice way to close our time together. I'm going to shuffle the Greenwood Tarot. And once again, I want to say thank you to Anna for gifting me this deck. And Anna I haven't seen her in comments or in a live chat for a long time, but Anna is from New Zealand and she used to be regularly on my channel. The reason I pulled out this deck was I was thinking of its colors and its artwork and how brilliantly it feels like it connects to spring for me. And that's why I pulled it out. And then I realized I want to do more with this deck and I want to connect more with it. And when Mark Ryan asked in the book about the Grail question, I thought, wow, maybe I can weave this into the Arthurian series as well too. Okay, so I'm going to read from the Seer, which is surprisingly, so this is the High Priestess card, it is the 17th Arcanum, or it's numbered 17 in this deck. So that's a bit of a mystery to me, but I want you to know that this is in the position where we would see the star. So I'll let you chew on that. The Seer is wrapped in the owl's cloak of wisdom, which is decorated with the totem animals of power and their shamanic spirits. She stands before the world tree, studying the roots that are deeply embedded in the earth, and close around her are the symbols of the four elements that she mediates: the cup, the staff, arrowhead, and stone. On her staff is the crane bag. From her cloak hang the runes. She may be masked, and her face may only be glimpsed or seen in half light. Her voice may be hushed, and she may speak in riddles, but you will listen, because she can point you to new, wiser beginnings. Placed at the heart of the wheel and of the Greenwood, in the quadrant of the element earth-water, the Seer represents insight gained from the stillness and the inwardness of the sojourn with the hermit. She stands at the heart of the inner personal universe and can mediate that knowledge and can help externalize this energy into power, wisdom, or creative endeavor in the material world. Just as reflection or the traditional high priestess represents psychism through an emotional and ungrounded lunar channel, The seer also acts as an oracular mediator of the feminine intuitive and the imaginative principle. But her mediation is based on grounded energy and skill. This is symbolized by her feathered cloak, which represents the flight of thought and intellectual matured and stabilized, and intellect matured and stabilized through her deep-rooted power, grounded in the memory of the conscious earth. There is more, but I'll just going to skip ahead here. So this is in a reading. The time has come, so here's our message. The time has come to focus your power and let it flow through you. Many dreams or desires related to the creative emotional process are ready to be applied in your day-to-day life, and you must now give vent to those hidden or suppressed desires. This may also be related to healing, sexual relationships, or partnerships. Interesting, right? If this were a 2. Now, the manifestation of inner spiritual or esoteric insights into your practical and physical daily life will bring profound rewards and results. It is a sign of maturity. The seer may also relate to creative impulses related to art, skills, and crafts, and the joy of bringing pleasure and teaching to others. Inspiration and wisdom, oracular prophecy, inner vision, shamanic flight, soul healing, and empathy with nature. So how might you take that energy to your planning for spring? And I talked about yesterday in the reading yesterday how the moon is still waning, and the new moon in Aries, the new moon of spring, won't be with us for some days. So quiet contemplation and reflection in preparation for the care that is needed in the planting of those first seeds, be they in your garden or your new projects, is really important, right? This is a time of gathering our energy and reflecting and preparation. And I think that really is supported and nourished with this dance that's happening right now with Mercury and Venus retrograde, and how the retrogrades do indeed help us to slow down and reflect. And kind of a perfect card of reflection. In a way, it almost reminds me of a Queen of Swords. You see her face there? You can see the side view of her face. All right. Well, I'm going to leave you with that. And I want to thank you for your questions, your comments, all of your contributions to my channel throughout the week. Take good care and have a lovely rest of your weekend. Namaste.